I'm on a 6,000-mile road trip exploring the Pacific coast with the goal of knocking out as many new species as possible from my kayak.
And I'm catching fish like this.
Yeah, I got color. Yeah!
So come along as I fish both freshwater and salt and meet new kayak anglers along the way.
What?
This is Field Trips with Robert Field.
Look at that! That was insane!
Hey guys, before we start this week's vlog episode, I wanted to take a minute to talk to you guys about something that's relevant to the content in this vlog. So this summer, over 2,000 wildfires have ravaged the Pacific Northwest and California. Over 1,000 square miles have been burned. That's roughly the size of Rhode Island. Over $350 million have been spent on firefighting costs alone, which really doesn't even encompass all the recovery that's going to cost money after these fires are finally contained. And so in the second half of this vlog episode, you'll see me hiking up several places along the Columbia River Gorge. I stated at the very end of this episode that it is probably the single most beautiful place I have ever visited in my entire life. And unfortunately, because of these fires, that will not be the case for some time. They're saying that it will be decades and decades before these areas are back to the way they're supposed to be. And I've heard that at least some of these fires were caused by humans. I've even read some rumors that not all of them were accidents. And it's really quite tragic what's happened up there. And I know that these areas hold a special place in a lot of people's hearts. For me, I've only been there the one time, and it left a great impact on me and my life. And so I know that I just last week pleaded to you guys to donate money to the hurricane victims in Texas and Florida and the Caribbean islands. But I'm asking for your help again. It really pains me what has happened to this place. You will see here in a minute just how incredible this place was before these fires. And so if you'd like to donate, I've donated pretty much more than I can afford to these two different causes. It almost feels like the world is ending with all these horrible things that are happening in our country. But if you would like to donate, the organization that I chose to donate to is called gorgefriends.org. It's Friends of the Gorge. That is specifically for the fires along the Columbia River Gorge, the area that you will see in this video. But if you can, you know, every dollar helps. These people will go in after these fires are contained and help rebuild everything from clearing trees to planting new trees, helping those that were affected, whose homes were affected. So again, if you could spare a few bucks and help these people get this place back to the incredible beauty that you'll see here in a minute. I appreciate you guys taking the time and hope you enjoy the episode. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Field Trips vlog. So yesterday I hooked into the craziest bycatch of my entire life when I hooked into an 8-foot sturgeon on my salmon rig. So tomorrow we're actually going out and targeting sturgeon on heavier gear this time. But before I did that, I wanted to come here to the Bonneville Dam Fish Hatchery to learn a little bit more about these prehistoric fish. Let's go check it out, see what we can learn about the largest freshwater fish on the continent. See if we can't figure something out that might help us get a few of these monsters to the boat tomorrow. Here's a cool diagram that shows the variety of salmon and trout species that are native here to the Columbia River. So this section of the hatchery is where they house and breed both salmon and trout. They separate the fish here by life stages, from eggs to fry all the way to full-grown adults. Here are some of the babies of both species, and I noticed they've got cages here to prevent them from jumping out. And you can obviously see why. These things go nuts at feeding time. And here are the adult salmon. Now, I'm not sure if they always have this weird behavior or if it has something to do with their life in captivity, but a lot of them are kind of swimming awkwardly on the surface. I'm not familiar with this species, so I'm not really sure if that's natural or not. Chinook salmon are the largest species of Pacific salmon, and they're also commonly called king salmon. This is the fish that I was going for when I hooked that monster 8-foot sturgeon. Every year from September to December, huge numbers of these fish head upriver to spawn in the exact same place that they were born. And by about 25 days after spawning, they all die off. By the time I get to Idaho, I'll see salmon there that have traveled 900 miles, climbed 7,000 feet of elevation, and passed through 8 dams to reach their nesting grounds. These are pretty remarkable animals. And here's where they incubate the eggs. They say they do 15 million eggs every single year, right here in this room. Here are some of these beautiful rainbow trout like we were catching in Redding with Ben Weishman. It's so hard to look at these things without wanting to put a line in the water. Rainbow trout have been introduced into a ton of water bodies around the world and are listed as one of the top 100 invasive species on the planet. So one thing I learned with Ben Weishman is that steelhead are the same fish as rainbow trout, except they're called steelhead when they live in the ocean and come upriver to spawn. Rainbow trout are a form of the same species that spend their entire lives in fresh water. Unlike Chinook salmon, some steelhead survive the spawn and can make several spawning runs between salt and fresh water, although most of them do die off after their first spawn. Steelhead typically spawn in 2 waves, a summer run and a winter run. The summer run fish typically head much further inland, as is the case with these fish here in the Columbia. So this is the viewing window where you can actually see fish passing through the dam. Bonneville has constructed a fish ladder that allows fish like salmon and steelhead to continue their normal migratory patterns past the dam. And there's actually people that serve as fish counters who count every single fish that passes by to give an estimate of the numbers of each species every year. All right, here we go. So here's the species that I came here to see. There are some massive sturgeon in this tank. The big one's name is Herman, and at about 10 feet long, he's the biggest one here at the Bonneville Hatchery. So white sturgeon are the 3rd largest species of sturgeon in the world after beluga and Kaluga sturgeon, and they're the largest freshwater fish in North America. They're classified as a bony fish, but they're more cartilaginous than bone, similar to a shark. Sturgeon also migrate up to swifter moving water to spawn, which is why the fish ladder here at the dam is so important. These fish are typically solitary, but back in 2008, 60,000 of these fish massed in a dense ball below this very dam, the reason for which is still unknown.
All right, well that was cool. Got to see some massive sturgeon. Got to learn a little bit about the species, their life cycle, their behavior. Hopefully I can kind of put all that together, put what I learned yesterday fighting that monster, and see if we can't get several of these guys to the boat tomorrow. We'll see. I got the rest of the day off. I'm gonna go do a little hiking.
This is Horsetail Falls, and above it is Ponytail Falls.
I'm gonna hike up to the top of the falls, check it out from above.
These switchbacks make for a workout. not gonna lie, this is a long way up. Definitely starting to feel it. I can hear the water getting louder. I'm getting close. And I made it to the top. 620 feet. Now that is a view. Let's keep following this up and see what else we can find. These NRS Vibe water shoes are money on these rocks. Now this is not a terrible place to sit down and take a little break.
I think the Columbia River Gorge here near Portland, Oregon might be the most beautiful place I've ever visited. It's just amazing.
You know, in a day and age where entertainment and cheap thrills are always at our fingertips, I cannot stress enough the importance of taking a little time away from our smartphones and social media. Take a drive, find a back road, and look for something cool to explore. It's the days like these that stick with me for a very long time.